Hey everyone, Ben at Moddule here. Today I'll take you through the platform, the features, and also some of the interesting enhancements and improvements that we've made to the platform. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it. What you see here is the dashboard. Now, if you've seen one of my previous videos, this will look quite familiar to you. For me as a user, this gives me a quick overview, a snapshot, if you like, of what's happening in my supply chain and are there any issues that I need to deal with and make decisions on before they have a knock-on effect. So across the top here, these are my shipments across multiple modes of transport. I have ocean, I have air, road, or parcel. There's rail in there as well if I have it. And I can see that I have some that are early, which is quite rare in our industry, of course, what's on time and also what's delayed. Of course, I'm going to pay a lot of attention to what's delayed. Now, speaking of delays, if I scroll down, this is the map. The map tells me where in the world my cargo is. And as I mentioned, I have two here that are delayed, as you can see. So I need to deal with those. Now, why are they delayed? Well, the alerts tell me why they're delayed. Now, it could be the reason being maybe there was a delay at the port of origin, for example. Maybe the container was rolled at another port along the route. The system proactively tells me about this via the alerts, and these alerts are even delivered to my email inbox. So I don't actually have to log into the platform. I open my inbox in the morning and straight away I can see the status of my shipments and what I need to deal with that day. And then if I scroll down further, I have my warehouse overview. So this would be what's moving in and out of my warehouses around the world. That could be my own, that could be partner locations, 3PL locations as well. Are there any things like delivery issues, stock out, SKU issues as well? Anything like that, I get to see here all our aggregated data in one place. And then further to that, I have things like carrier performance. So this would be, well, I want to hold my carriers accountable. Are they on time? Are they early or delayed? And then also order history. So this is order history across a date range based on my warehouses and in and out order volumes. So that's the platform. And as I said, some of this will be familiar to you. However, we have made some important new updates, and these are that I can now customize the data in the dashboard. I can select the data I want to present. I can drop and drag it into the platform as I see fit. And that allows me then to see the data that's most relevant to me in my supply chain. I can also have a main dashboard that perhaps I share with my colleagues, and then I can also have a dashboard that's individual to me. So in my role of my organization, perhaps there's certain data, things like CO2 emission data, for example, or maybe I only want to see ocean shipment. Well, I can select that myself and create a dashboard that is most relevant to me. Now, speaking of customization, we've made another enhancement to the platform, which you'll see here under the enterprise drop-down in the bottom left hand corner. Under appearance, you'll see that now as a user, I can even add my logo and create my own color scheme for the platform. This means that before I even go to market, I can add and make changes to the platform so that it looks and feels just like my own. It's white labeled as my own. We always had that feature in Moddule, but now we allow the customer to upload their own branding and color scheme and also logos into the platform itself, and then they take it to market. So you can see that customization is a theme that carries on throughout the UI experience in the Moddule platform, from dashboard customization through to branding and logos, and you'll also see it appear in other sections of the platform as we go through this video. So from here, let's take a look at shipment tracking. So the shipment tracking page is all of my live shipments in the platform. In this case, we'd call them in progress. I can also see purely what's delayed in my supply chain. I can also see what's completed, as you'll see as well. But for now, for this demo, I'll stick with what's in progress. So you see, I have shipments across different modes of transport here listed: air, ocean, road. I'm going to select, for example, the top shipment here. When I select it, the map appears. I have the custom tags at the top. So what are custom tags? Well, I can tag a shipment with PO data, SKU data, even custom tags that I create myself, or we can pull these tags in from external sources like an ERP. Now, why is that relevant to me as a user? It means then that I can search for a shipment based on PO or SKU data rather than just, for example, the container number. It becomes much easier for me to track shipments based on data and search terms that are real world and relevant to me. So back to the shipment, we have the map. So where in the world is my stuff? Or we have that answer. But to get granular here, these are milestones in the journey of this shipment, and anything amber is a change to the ETA. That usually constitutes a delay. So, for example, in this particular case, the port of loading, well, there was a departure at the port of loading, that's a problem. It was rolled as well, so that's also a problem. So each of these factors impact the end ETA, and these are things that I need to know about. So we've made it really easy to see, right, what's affecting the ETA, what are the delays, and what's the reason. And then further down, I don't even need to leave this page to track the shipment from not only port to port, but then port to door as well. So we have main carriage, pre-carriage of course, but then there's also on carriage. So port to door, trucking, haulage from the port to the final destination is covered here as well, as you can see. And in this example, I have a lot of different data, additional data that's tagged to this shipment. I have a bunch of different reference fields. This is all data that we can pull from, again, from an ERP, for example, but also there's documentation management as well. So I can upload documentation, things like, for example, commercial invoice, packing list, they can also be added to. I get a lot of information packed into one page about one single shipment, and it just means then that it's really easy for me to see what's happening, what's the status, has anything changed, and also just what's the general reference information attached to this particular shipment. Now, if I select the Track Shipment button, you'll also see a small update here, which is, well, small visually, but has a big impact. I can now track bill of lading. So previously we could track container number, but now we've added in a feature that allows the user to track based on bill of lading too. A couple more features that are worth mentioning here are things like, and I'm going to change to completed in this example, CO2 emission data, so I can pull this out as a report. I get this at the shipment level. That's really important now. Custom status, now naturally this always shows completed because I've selected completed, but in a live shipment you get an updated custom status as well. So these are again enhanced features that just give greater visibility into the status of the shipment itself. So from shipment tracking, I will go to PO management. So PO management, a clunky, convoluted process that typically would involve multiple stakeholders like a supplier, a factory, a freight forwarder, and also the cargo owner. Typically, it's all based on Excel and email, and the process itself is time-consuming and complex. So we've lifted the users and the stakeholders out of email and into this process here. So you'll see a bunch of different purchase orders on this page. And I'll select the top one. What you see here is a page that we've lifted all the stakeholders into so that they're literally all on the same page about the current status. So maybe I'm the user, I'm the cargo owner, and I've uploaded my latest purchase order. My factory can see this and they can update the pickup date and ready date. That also allows my freight forwarder to then see when it's ready for collection, and they can arrange the collection accordingly. Once that starts, then the tracking starts and all of the purchase order data is linked and attached to the shipment tracking. So we bring all that data together from purchase order then through to shipment tracking and then onwards, which we'll talk about shortly. So we've covered shipment tracking, we've covered purchase order management, of course we've covered the dashboard already. Let's move to inventory. So if I select the inventory tab, you'll see here that this is my global inventory across all locations. This is an aggregated view of everything that I have in each of my warehouses around the world. Now, it might be that I don't want an aggregated view. I want to filter down to the warehouse level. That's also fine. But for the purpose of this demo, I'll keep the view global. So I see what I have in storage across all my locations around the world, what's reserved for orders, what's available, and the total of the two. And if I select the SKU, and you can see that by selecting the SKU, I can see how many of that particular SKU I have in each of my warehouses around the world. So not only do I see a total aggregated view, but at the SKU level, I can then dig into the finer details of how many of that particular SKU do I have in all my global locations and warehouse management systems. Additionally, I can follow my inbound orders. So I can follow the status of these. So what's been received or partially received, for example, and I'll select a random example here. I can see what was expected and versus what was actually received, and then the timestamps of when the warehouse received it. And then the same process for outbound as well. I can see the pick, pack, ship status here, all normalized across all my locations. If I select one that's been shipped, I can see when it was placed in terms of the order to the warehouse, when it was actually fulfilled, but then more importantly, I can follow the final mile delivery right through to destination here as well. And then finally, in this section, there's a returns. So users can create returns themselves in the portal, or we can connect the platform to a returns portal that belongs to a customer, for example. Means then that, again, I follow the receiving process. Were the items pristine when they arrived? I can check that. And when were they actually received by the warehouse as well? I can also check that, along with any associated reference numbers and details too. Now we'll move from returns to reports. We've included a lot of reporting capabilities out of the box, but this just gives the user the ability to create the reports themselves. Things like CO2 emission data is now very important. What happens is once I've created the report, well, I select the data first of all that I want included, and that generates the report right here in the UI. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the overview, and we hope to hear from you soon.